بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما وبعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدى هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. My respected brothers and sisters in Islam, it has been reported in the books of tafsir that once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Ibrahim to give the adhan, the call which is the adhan for Hajj. So Ibrahim alayhi salam spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and told him, "Oh Allah, how will people hear me?" And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, "Upon you is to make the call, and upon me is to spread it around and spread it to the ears of people." And so he gave the adhan for Hajj, and he told the people that, "O mankind, upon you is Hajj to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You, O mankind, owe a visit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so therefore visit him, meaning فَحُجُّوا." And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know in the hadith, it mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam to spread in all parts of the world until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an, وَأَذِّن فِي الْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ لِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِعَ لَهُمْ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an that the وَأَذِّن فِي الْحَجِّ, and give the call for Hajj. يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا, people will come on their feet, meaning walking. وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ, and upon every lean camel. يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ, they will come from every valley and every small gap in the world, basically meaning from every part of the world, from every valley, from every mountain pass, from every place in the world they will come. Wallahi, this issue of Hajj is truly amazing and truly important for us to realize, for those people who have done Hajj and those people who are still waiting to do Hajj. For verily, in Hajj is a great lesson for us, and in Hajj is a great is tremendous reward for us. First of all, I'm sure all of you realize that Hajj is from the 5 pillars of Islam. And when we talk about pillars of Islam, sometimes we don't think about what it truly means to be a pillar. What it means to be a pillar, brothers and sisters in Islam, is that if a person dies without doing Hajj and he had the opportunity of doing Hajj, that it just may be that he has died out of Islam, because even though he had the opportunity, he had the money, he had the time, yet he just didn't do it. It just may be that he was not a Muslim. Why? Because Islam is built on 5 pillars. So if you don't look after one pillar, then of course the foundation will break and crack and fall. And so therefore it is for this reason why it was reported that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to take jizya from those people who had the opportunity of going for Hajj and didn't go. He used to take jizya from them, meaning what? Meaning that they had not become, they ceased to remain Muslimin. This is an important point, that Hajj is truly, truly important, and that is why, that is the significance of it being a pillar of Islam. Also, brothers and sisters in Islam, Amr ibn al-As, when he was accepting Islam, and the companion of Rasulullah Amr ibn al-As, when he was accepting Islam, he came to Rasulullah ﷺ and he gave his hand to Rasulullah ﷺ in acceptance of Hajj, in acceptance of Islam. And Rasulullah ﷺ was taking his hand. At that time, Amr, he moved his hand away. He moved his hand away. This is an authentic hadith in Muslim. And Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Ya Amr, what's wrong?" And Amr said that, "Oh Rasulullah, I want to make a condition on you." And say, "What is that condition?" "That Allah forgives all my sins." So Rasulullah ﷺ smiled and said, "Ya Amr, don't you know? Look at that. They were accepting Islam without even knowing that Allah forgives their sins. They were accepting Islam just from the pure joy and the pure beauty of Islam. And so, don't you know, O Amr, that Islam removes all sins, and also Hajj removes all sins, as Rasulullah told him. And so Amr became happy and he accepted Islam. So the shahid in this hadith is that Rasulullah ﷺ said that just like Islam removes all past sins, in the same way Hajj removes all past sins. Meaning that when you want to renew your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you have spent a lifetime of sinning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you want to renew your tawheed, and it is as if you're accepting Islam again, if you want me to advise you with that action which will be equal to you accepting Islam all over again, then do Hajj. For verily it removes all past sins. And that is why Rasulullah ﷺ had said in a authentic hadith, man hajja, whoever does Hajj, falam yarfuth walam yafsuq, whoever does Hajj and he doesn't do rafath wala fusuq. What does rafath mean? Rafath means sexual intercourse. He doesn't have any relationship with women, and of course anything that leads to that, such as looking at them, such as having business, marriage contracts with them, such as touching them with pleasure, etc., touching your wife with pleasure, etc. Anything which may be I don't know why brothers are smiling at me, but I don't know. I think marriage makes people smile, mashallah. It's a smiley topic, isn't it? Okay, and anyone who does these things, and he is in danger of his Hajj not being acceptable. But anyone who doesn't do these things, meaning a Hajj in which there is no rafath, there is no sexual intercourse, and anything that leads onto it, wala fusuq, and there is no evil deeds, meaning that there is no filthy actions being done, like for example argumentation, like for example hitting people, like for example stealing from people, like for example the worst of fisk, the worst of filthy things is shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the least of it may be, for example, even giving your brother a bad look. And anyone who doesn't do these fisk and stays away from these two things, raja'a kayawmi waladatu ummu, he comes back just like the day in which his mother gave birth to him, meaning pure from sin, completely white. Has anyone seen a baby that is ugly? Have you ever seen a baby that is ugly? No. All babies are beautiful, aren't they? They have this radiant light in their face. Do you know why that is the case? That is because they are pure from sins. They are pure, they have no sin written on them. And then when people grow up, do you see this cloudy dust on their face? Do you see this gloomy look on their face until the time of death, when you see them in the most gloomiest of states? And that is because their hearts have got a cover on it. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an, كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مِمَّا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. As Allah says in the Qur'an, that rather, رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ, ar-ran, which is like a covering has been put on their hearts because of what they used to earn. And of course, as you know, the hadith of Rasulullah, there is a piece of flesh in your body. If it becomes pure, then the whole body is pure. And if that piece of flesh becomes bad, then the whole body is bad. Allah wa hiya al-qalb, is not anything but the heart. So if the heart has been covered up, then truly the limbs will also show that ugliness, and also show the fact that your heart is covered up. So this is how Hajj will remove all these filthy things as well. Rasulullah had also told us that Hajj is one of the most is one of the best deeds that a person can do. In fact, in authentic hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, a man came to Rasulullah and said, Ya Rasulullah, what is the best of deeds? So Rasulullah said, it is that you believe in Allah and His Prophet. And then he said, okay, then what after that? Then he said, it is to struggle and do jihad in the cause of Allah. And then he said, then what is it after that? He said, Al-Hajj al-Mabrur, an acceptable Hajj. An acceptable Hajj. And he also, one important thing that brothers, we need to realize, that Hajj is the pinnacle of the best days of the year. The best days of the year are 10, and these days are the 10 days of the Hijjah. And Hajj, which is one of the best deeds, is done in the best days of the year. So truly, to do the best deeds in the best days of the year has tremendous reward. That is why Al-Hajj al-Mabrur laysa lahu jazaa'un illa al-Jannah. That is why an acceptable Hajj, there is no reward for it except Jannah. I know sometimes people think, okay, wallahi, if I go for Hajj, I don't have enough money. How am I going to afford £2,000 now to go for Hajj, and then spending money and this and that? If you think about it, brothers and sisters in Islam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, whoever wants Allah to increase his money, then let him do Hajj. You want money, do Hajj. Don't be silly. Whenever you do business, you're going to have to invest a little bit. And this £2,000 is your investment. And Allah has guaranteed that He'll give it back. And wallahi, for the last 6 years I've been doing Hajj, never has a single year passed except that I have seen Allah increase me in my provisions after Hajj. And of course I would spend some money in Hajj, yet 10 times or 20 times more would come to me after Hajj. Wallahi, I've seen this in myself. And what about you? You will definitely also see this in yourself. You know, if your Hajj is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, truly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase the wealth of the money that you have put in, and He will give you back in this life before the next. Also, brothers and sisters in Islam, Hajj includes the best day of the year, and that is the day of Arafat. That is the day in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Rasulullah had said, He does not free people from the fire of hell in any day more than in the day of Hajj, than on the day of Arafat. And we know also that Rasulullah had said that the best dua that a person can ever make is on the day of Arafat. And the best dua that a person can make is the dua of the Prophets. And what is the dua of the Prophets? Does anyone know? What is the dua of the Prophets? La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la lahul mulk wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. This is the best dua, meaning the dua of Tawheed is the best dua that a person can ever make on the day of Arafat, the best day of the year and the best place that you can ever be. Also, one thing that we must realize, brothers and sisters in Islam, the worst of people who stand on the plains of Arafat are those people who think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive them. The worst of people that stand on the plains of Arafat, the worst of Hujjaj, are not those people who are committing sins. No, they are the worst of people are those who think that Allah will not forgive them. Because don't you see, Arafat is a day of mercy. On that day the angels rise up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah boasts to the angels, what are my slaves asking for? What are they doing? Of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, but He wishes to test the angels, to increase His praise. And so He says, they are praising you, Allah, they're asking you for your help, and they're asking you for your mercy and your forgiveness. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, as Rasulullah said in the authentic hadith in Bukhari, I make you my witness, as Allah tells the angels, I make you all my angels my witnesses, that I have forgiven them. That I have forgiven them. Brothers and sisters in Islam, our Hajj, and the Hajj that Rasulullah taught us, and the call of Ibrahim, the pristine call of Ibrahim was a Hajj that is pure from shirk, was a Hajj that is pure and unadulterated with the filthy practices of the disbelieving mushrikeen who used to do Hajj at that time. And in fact, Rasulullah when he sent Abu Bakr to do the first Hajj, and as you know, Hajj was made obligatory in the year, ulama have differences, was it in the 9th year or in the 10th year? The most correct is that it was in the 9th year. There's another opinion that says 6th year, that is a weak opinion. The most correct is that Hajj was made obligatory in the 9th year of Hijrah. So why didn't Rasulullah do Hajj in that year? The answer is because he was busy in the battles of fighting in the cause of Allah, and that was even more important than Hajj. And so Rasulullah was busy in that. However, he still sent a group with Abu Bakr as a leader to do Hajj. In the 10th year, he did his Hajj. Of course, he is the one who led the Hajj. However, we notice one important thing about the Hajj of Rasulullah is that we notice that Rasulullah always tried to be different from the mushrikeen in the way in the way Rasulullah did Hajj. And throughout the Hajj, Rasulullah showed how he was different from the mushrikeen. And I will give you some examples of how he was different from the mushrikeen throughout the Hajj, so that next time when you go for Hajj and you remember these acts that you're doing, know that you are not just doing it because of the Sunnah, but you're also doing it because you're different from the mushrikeen, and because the Hajj that you're doing is on the pristine call of Ibrahim, on the way that Ibrahim truly wanted the people to do Hajj, and the way Ibrahim truly did Hajj. That is firstly, that the mushrikeen did not used to do ramal, and ramal is running around the house, and that is in the first three, in the tawaf, which is the 7. Okay, and that is in the tawaf, in the 7 circuits of the tawaf. Rasulullah, as you know, in the first 3 circuits of the tawaf, he would run around the Kaaba in a hurried pace, in a jogging pace, in a hurried pace. And this is something that the mushrikeen did not used to do. And by the way, this ramal is only to be done in the tawaf al-qudum, which is on the beginning tawaf that you do. In the tawaf al-hajj, which someone does, which is after, for example, he has stoned and everything, on the day of nahr, on the 10th day, which is the day of slaughtering, then of course in that tawaf there is no ramal, there is no running around the Kaaba. that is only walking, there is no running on that tawaf time. So therefore the mushrikeen did not used to do ramal, and they did not used to run around the Kaaba. Second thing was that they did not used to do ittiba. Ittiba is showing the arm, and as you know, Rasul's sunnah was that the arm was to be showed, and Rasul told us to actually show our skin, our strength, and our biceps to them, to the mushrikeen, so that they know that we are powerful as well, we are strong. And just because we have left our beautiful clothing and our powerful armor, it doesn't mean, and because as you know in ihram, you can't carry armor, you shouldn't carry swords, of course, unless you have a neat reason to. Doesn't mean that we are that doesn't mean that we are weak, and so Rasulullah told the people to actually show the arm. Also, what they did not used to do, brothers and sisters in Islam, what they used to do was run around the Kaaba without clothes. And they used to come, Hujjaj the mushrikeen used to come from Yemen, and they would say that we are the mutawakkilun. We are the ones who have the true tawakkul. And what would they do? They would come to the Kaaba, and then they would start begging from the people, because they came without food, and they came without clothing, they came without anything, and then they would do tawaf around the Kaaba without clothes on. And they call themselves what? They call themselves mutawakkilun. They are the ones who have tawakkul on Allah. It truly reminds you of some of the Sufiya, some of the extreme Sufis, who, for example, they think they have tawakkul by not even preparing for the ibadah, by not having provisions for their livelihood, and all they do is they say they're mutawakkilun and forget about the dunya and just do ibadah. Yet the ulama, when they said that they were mutawakkilun, they called them by another name. They called them muta'akilun instead of mutawakkilun. Do you know what muta'akilun means? It means the person who eats other people's food. So you're not mutawakkilun. They were truly not mutawakkilun. They were truly muta'akilun. All right. Also, brothers and sisters in Islam, they did not used to go to Arafat. The Quraysh and the mushrikeen did not used to go to Arafat. They would stop at Muzdalifah. And they wouldn't go out, because they used to say that we are a noble tribe. We are the Quraysh, and we would stop at Muzdalifah. Does anyone know why they would stop at Muzdalifah? Any ideas? Why do you think they could stop at Muzdalifah, not go to Arafat? And this is an important point here. I will be using this throughout my talks. Does anyone know? The answer is because Muzdalifah is the end of the haram of Makkah. The sacred sanctity of Makkah and the sacred boundary of Makkah, that it includes Makkah, includes Mina, includes Muzdalifah, and that's the boundary. So Arafat is actually outside the boundary of Makkah. Arafat is actually outside the boundary of Makkah, and that is why you can actually, if you're not in Hajj, you can actually hunt animals there. And if you have leaves, trees, you can actually pull the grass out, or you can take a leaf from the tree. Obviously in Makkah, in the Haram, you're not allowed to do that. Even you can't even take the leaf out. You can't even pull a grass out, because it's all haram. You can't cage an animal, whereas in Arafat you can, because it is outside the Haram of Makkah. And so that's why they would always stay in Muzdalifah. Why? Because they would say that we are a noble tribe, we are worthy of staying within the sanctity of the haram, and then so they would not go out to Arafat even. Also, brothers and sisters in Islam, what they would, as for the mushrikeen that would come from other than Quraysh, and the mushrikeen from Yemen, for example, then they would go to Arafat. However, they would leave before the sunset, after the mid-noon. They would leave quite quickly, so they wouldn't stay until the sunset. So this is something as well that Rasulullah went against. Another thing that they would do as well is that they would stay in Muzdalifah until the sunrise. And Muzdalifah is the place where you spend the night after the day of Arafat. So if you want to picture it, it's like this is Makkah. If you say that this is Makkah, then this is Mina, about 5 kilometers or 7 kilometers. Then you have Muzdalifah, which is about 10 kilometers from Mina, or 5-10 kilometers, or it's just next to. Obviously they're all bounding each other, but I'm just talking about the middle point of Mina until the middle point of Muzdalifah. Then that is the boundary of the Haram. Then you have Arafat, which is about 10 kilometers away from Muzdalifah, or 5 to 7 kilometers or 10 kilometers away from Muzdalifah, and that is Arafat. And so the mushrikeen, in the night of Muzdalifah, they would stay in Muzdalifah, and then they would get up in the morning, and then they would make all their talbiyah that they used to do, and then leave only after sunrise. So Rasulullah went against them, and so he left before sunrise. Also, what the mushrikeen used to do in the days of Mina, and these are days in which the people, this is after the day of slaughtering. So after you have slaughtered, and after you have shaved your head and etc., and worn your clothes, etc., people would stay in Mina for another 2 days. And what the mushrikeen used to do is that they would stay in Mina, and all they would do is praise their forefathers. They would compete with one another to praise their forefathers. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that in Mina we shouldn't do that. Rather, what we should do, فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَذِكْرِكُمْ آبَاءَكُمْ أَوْ أَشَدَّ ذِكْرًا. So remember Allah like the remembrance of those people, their fathers, or meaning the mushrikeen, how they used to remember their fathers, how they was always remembering and so competing with one another to mention how great their fathers were. Rather, you should remember, so in the same way as they were doing that, you should do Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same way, in the same amount of energy that we're expending, and the time they're expending in praising Allah, in the same way you should praise Allah. أَوْ أَشَدَّ ذِكْرًا, or even more than that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us what dua to say, and then He said, فَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا فَمَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And this is the best dua to make as well. When you're in Arafat and you're eating the food that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided you because you've slaughtered all the animals, and this is the best time, and this is the best dua to make at that point as well. Okay. Another way that the mushrikeen were different from the Muslimin was that in their talbiyah they used to make shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would say labbaik Allahumma labbaik. They would say labbaik la sharika lak illa sharikan huwa lak tamlikuka wa malak, as they used to say. They would say labbaik Allahumma labbaik, oh Allah, I answer your call, I answer, right? Labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik, and I answer your call, there is no partners to you. Illa sharikan huwa lak, except for one person or one deity who is a partners, who we associate and partners with you, and he has everything that you do. Just like you own everything, he also owns everything too. And this is their talbiyah, subhanallah. Whereas the talbiyah of the Muslimin is what? Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. Jayyid. Let's move on to brothers and sisters in Islam. What was the true secret of the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam? What is the secret behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking us to leave our lands and go over to this barren land and do Hajj? What is the true secret? If you think about it, brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only asked us to do it only once and obligated it upon us only once. And so Hajj is only obligatory once in a lifetime. Everything else is extra. And in the same way as we leave our lands and we go to a foreign land, a barren land, a land that doesn't have any vegetation, a land that nothing grows in the same way shall we leave our world and our livelihood, and we shall go into the grave, into a place in which nothing else grows except, nothing else grows. It's a barren place under the earth. And in the same way as you leave your clothing and you leave your family and you say salam to them and you say goodbye to them and you leave your people and you leave your clothing and the essence of your livelihood, in the same way shall you also go into to your grave, leave all your clothing, leave all your family, and go into into the bottom of the earth, into the stomach of the earth. This is one of the wisdoms of Hajj. But if you look at it, Hajj itself is full of tremendous wisdom, because Hajj means, a Hajj in Islam, the word Hajj in Arabic means a visit. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Qur'an, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا, and upon mankind is a visit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for he who is able to. We understand that the Hajj is truly a visit to Allah. Okay, so let's picture Hajj to be a visit, a visit to Allah. Just like, for example, we visit the kings and queens of this world, so to imagine Hajj to be a visit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the first and the most important thing that we start off with, our Hajj with is the day of Arafat. Because everything else before it is minor compared to the Arafat. And that is the major day. As Rasulullah said, Al-Hajju Arafah. The Hajj is truly Arafah. And that is truly when the Hajj starts. So when you're in Arafat, remember what I said. Arafat was it inside the haram or outside the haram? Outside the haram. So imagine as if there are huge walls on the gates of the haram. On the gates of the haram are huge heavenly walls protecting the castle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is a sacred Makkah. And you are outside in this barren land, in the lands of Arafat. And the barren lands of Arafat, and you are there from the sunrise, or you reach there from whatever time, from mid-noon until the afternoon, until sunset, and you are sitting there, and you are sitting and making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with your hands raised up. Imagine the hadith of Rasulullah, the guidance of Rasulullah was that he had his hands raised up so much until some of the ulama used to think that the sunnah of Rasulullah was that he would point his hands down. But as Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah mentioned, that no, the case was that Rasulullah had his hands so much in the sky, right, so high up in the sky, that some people thought that his palms were pointing down mistakenly. But the reality, fact of the matter is, Rasulullah wasn't making dua like this as people do, or like that, or like that, or like this. No, he was up like this, begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the stay in Arafat, begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as you know, he was sitting on his camel throughout. He wasn't standing. Why sitting on a camel? So that he had the ability to actually put up his hands. As you know, standing throughout the time is quite difficult. So he sat on the riding beast, and that is why it's sunnah to actually sit on your riding beast, or sit in the bus, for example, sit in your car and make dua. And notice this as well, brothers and sisters in Islam. When the reins from the camel, when the ropes of the camel fell from the hands of Rasulullah, when it fell from his hands, when he had raised it up so high, he didn't put both hands down to get it. Rather, he took only one hand, and then he lifted up, and then he put his hands back to where it was, just to show you how much dua that Rasulullah was making, and how he was truly making use of every single minute of being in Arafat. And if you think about it, what is the significance? What is the true secret behind it? The secret behind it, brothers and sisters in Islam, is like the poor people, the beggars, outside the gates of a great king, outside the gates of a great king, begging Allah without any clothes, with their two towels wrapped around their bodies, with disheveled hair, with dust and grot in their hair, making dua to Allah throughout, imploring Him to open the gates of His mercy to him. This is the beauty and the secret of Hajj. Can you imagine this? This is the significance of staying in Arafat. And that is why Rasulullah also joined up his Dhuhr and Asr, and he prayed it at the time of Dhuhr, and he prayed them with 2 rak'ahs, and he joined them together, so that he had enough time, and he would spend all his time in making ibadah, making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and dua is ibadah in itself. Thereafter, after the sun sets, it is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has answered the dua. It is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has answered the dua of the people. As we know that this is the case, that a person does not leave Arafat, a person whose Hajj will inshallah be accepted does not leave Arafat except that Allah has forgiven him. Except that Allah has forgiven him. And the worst of those people are those who think that Allah will not forgive him. Because this is a person who doesn't want Allah's gates to open, isn't it? This is a person who doesn't want the gates of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open. And can you therefore understand the gravity of the situation if a person leaves before the sunset? He truly hasn't waited for the forgiveness to come down to him from the 7 heavens. And thereafter, the gates of mercy are open, and so you pass into Muzdalifah. Now imagine the gates are opened, now you pass into Muzdalifah. Remember, Muzdalifah is the outer boundary of the haram. So you are now in Muzdalifah. And what better, what way do you wish to meet the king except by taking rest first? You have had a terrible day, a day of worshipping Allah, a day of beseeching Him for mercy, and so you are tired. And so Rasulullah's hadith was that he would reach Muzdalifah, and then he would join his prayers, make an adhan, pray his maghrib, then make the iqamah, and then pray his isha as well, and thereafter pray his witr, and then he would go to sleep. Most correct opinion is that he did pray his witr, and then he would go to sleep. And his sunnah was not that he would stand up that night in prayer, in tahajjud. Rather, his sunnah was that he would go to sleep. Muzdalifah is from the word in Arabic called izdalafa. Izdalafa means to come near. To come near. So Muzdalifah and your mabit and your living in Muzdalifah means that you have come near to Allah, that you have entered into the haram. Allah's gates of mercy has been opened up to you, and now you are in the haram or you are inside the haram, and you are in a place which is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now you are resting before the day in which you will visit the great king. And so the sun rises up. When the sun rises up, Rasulullah would get up, make wudu, he would pray, and thereafter he would he would praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until it had become reddened. The sky had become reddened and an orangey color, meaning the sun was about to come up. Thereafter he would move on. Then the best way, brothers and sisters in Islam, that one should approach a king and meet a king is to make sure that the king knows that anyone who is the enemy of the king, you don't like him. True or not? And the first thing that you do, first of all, when you want to visit a king, you want to give him a gift. True or not? Also, you want to make sure that the king knows that anyone who is the enemy of the king, you hate him. And also you want to go to the king in the most humblest of states, humbling yourself in the most amazing ways. How can we physically humble ourselves? Not just our hearts are truly humble, but how can we physically humble ourselves? And this is why the 10th day is a day in which we prepare ourselves to go visit the king. And so that's why Rasulullah would start off with Jamarat al-Aqaba, the main stoning. And you know the stoning, the secret of it is that Ibrahim a.s., he had stoned the devil. However, of course, these stones are not devils. The devil is not inside them as most people believe, but it is only a symbolic expression of our same hatred for the shaitan and our same willingness to hit the shaitan as well, and showing our disbelief in the shaitan. Do you see? The whole of the experience of Hajj is truly just to live up to the witness to the greatness of Allah, is to witness the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to witness Tawheed. And so what better way to go visit the king except after making sure the king knows that you don't like his enemies. And so the first thing Rasulullah would start off the day with is he would stone. So he would stone the Jamarat al-Aqaba, which is the main stone, which is the last of the three stones to be stoned. Jamarat al-Aqaba is the main and the last of the three, the one that is closest to Makkah. Thereafter, what would Rasulullah do? After the Rami, he would slaughter. So he would sacrifice. So after he has made sure that he had stoned and the king knows that he hates the enemies of the king, then he offers Allah a gift. He offers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a sacrifice. And this is the secret of why we sacrifice, because it is like we are offering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a small sacrifice for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us a huge reward. Don't you take a small gift when you go visit the king? Even the beggars, they take something small, a small pebble that they found or whatever, something small that they have, because they would want something bigger in return. So it is like a small gift you give to Allah. And Allah says in the Qur'an, لَن تَنَالُوا اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ الْبِرَّ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ, as Allah says in the Qur'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to eat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to benefit from the dead animals, from the carcasses and their meat and their bones. No, Allah is not going to benefit from that. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only tests you for your taqwa. Meaning the greatest gift that we're giving through our sacrifice is the taqwa that we're offering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our fear of Allah, our glorification of Allah that we offer Allah through our sacrifice. So this is the second thing Rasulullah did. Then we want to prepare ourselves. We want to prepare ourselves for visiting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we want to humble ourselves in front of Him. How do we humble ourselves? That's why Rasulullah would shave his head. Shave his head. Why would he shave his head? Because the Arabs at that time, they used to love big hair, long hair. And this would be a sign of their pride and a sign of their glory, sign of their authority, sign of their rujula, of their manhood. And so what better way to humble a slave, to humble himself in front of a great king, than to show that he has no hair on his head. And truly this is not only in Islam, but this is also found in other religions. As you know, for example, the Buddhists, for example, that's what they do. They shave their heads. For example, in the Chinese culture, in the Chinese, when they used to go visit the kings, they would shave their heads. And when the king would want to punish someone and lower his honor, he would punish him by ordering his head to be shaved. True or not? So it's a sign. It's a sign that truly, that not only in Islam but also in amongst mankind, this is a shaving of the head is a sign of humbleness. So the third thing that will be done is the head would be shaved. So mashallah, you have stoned the devil, you have shown your takfir of shaitan, you have shown your disbelief in the shaitan, and you have slaughtered and given Allah a gift, or offered Allah a sacrifice, offered Allah a gift, and you have prepared yourself to meet Allah, and now you take your shower. So you take your shower and you come out of your ihram, and you have come out of your ihram, and now because you have come out of your ihram, you have a shower and you put on beautiful perfume, because you don't want to go and visit the king in a dirty manner. No. You go and visit the king in a nice manner, in a clean manner, in a beautiful way, in a perfumed way. And this is why you have a shower and you put on your beautiful clothes again that Allah has already provided for you, and then you make your way to Makkah in order to visit the king. You are now visiting Al-Bakka, which is Al-Makkah. Al-Bakka, which is true word for Makkah. Now you're visiting Makkah, and then you do your visit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is you visiting His house. When you're visiting your house, this is as symbolic as visiting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. So you visit Him and you go around His house in the most tranquil manner, 7 circuits, and thereafter you run between the Safa and Marwa, completing your Hajj, completing the obligatory things of your the pillars of your Hajj. Because pillars of Hajj are 4. That is your ihram, that is your Arafat, and that which is your tawaf al-Hajj, and your sa'i. And so alhamdulillah, with that you have completed your visit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you return back to where? Where do you spend the night, guys? You spend it in Mina. You come back after that day, you come back to Mina. What is the significance of Mina? Mina comes from the word Muna. Muna means hope. Muna means hope. The hope of the heart that Allah has accepted your visit. The hope of the heart, the yearning of the heart, that hoping that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed your visit, has accepted your visit, has accepted your sacrifice, has accepted your Hajj, and so purified you, and has accepted you from amongst His noble slaves, and has rewarded you with a Jannah in this life and the hereafter. Jannah in this life, which is the love of Islam, and Jannah of the hereafter, which is the true paradise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for His slaves. And this is the true secret. And so you stay in Mina for how many days? 2-3 days. What do you do there? You eat of the meat that you have sacrificed. You eat from the sacrifices that Allah has provided for you. And this is what Rasulullah had said. Ayyamu tashriq. These are the days of the tashriq. These are days of eating and drinking and praising Allah. These are days of eating and drinking and praising Allah. Meaning now you are happy. You have visited Allah. Now Allah wants to give you a gift. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to rest in His palace. So you stay in the haram, and you don't have to go to Arafat anymore. Remember, you're inside His kingdom now. You are inside His castle. So you're staying within His castle in Mina, and you're staying there for a couple of days, happy and hoping for Allah's grace and Allah's mercy, hoping that Allah will give you the great ajr very, very soon. And thereafter, it's time to leave. And before that, what is the significance of you stoning every single day? The significance is La ilaha illallah. Don't you see how La ilaha illallah is made up of 2 parts? It's made up of denial and then acceptance. It's made up of first negation and then affirmation. What is the negation? That there is no deity worthy of worship. And what is the affirmation? It is except Allah. So in the same way as we need to live our life, and whenever we express our tawheed, we always need to show that we disbelieve in shirk and then believe in Allah, believe in tawheed. In the same way, every single day that we are there, we need to show our disbelief in the shaitan and our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Truly wonderful. If you think about the wisdom of Hajj, truly this is the experience of a lifetime, the experience of tawheed, a journey in exploring the vastness of tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so we come to the last day of Hajj, and you have just left Mina now. You've stayed 2 days, and now you need to go back. You need to go back to your family. And we come to the last tawaf. Why do we need to visit Allah again? Because it is from the adab, from the manners, that the last thing you visit is the most important thing, and that you don't visit anyone else after that. Because as you know, you always visit for example, when you're at the airport and you want to, and all your family is there. Who is the last person you want to touch and kiss? It's the one probably you love most, perhaps your children, isn't it? Your children, you want to hug them last, and then after that, go away. So you start off with the people who are not so close to you, and then you get at the end, you end up with the person who truly close to you, truly beloved to you, and truly honored to you, isn't it? And that is the same way. We meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again, we visit His house again, and then we leave without stopping at all. We don't pray anymore in Makkah, we don't stop to do anything more in Makkah, we just leave the kingdom straight away, hoping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted our Hajj. And truly this is the secret of Hajj. This is the secret of Hajj, and this is the beauty of the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the call for mankind to visit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a journey of Tawheed, in a journey of exploring the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanalaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.